All right, we're now recording, and today is March 16th, Tuesday, March 16th. And we're in week 3. Let's go to week 3. This time is moving fast, isn't
Sure is.
it? All right, good students. We are in week 3, and let's just go over a couple of things and always stop me if there are any questions. So we're in the week of the 15th, and we have our forum like we usually do. We're going to go over our PowerPoint lesson in just a second, and then let's talk about our assignments. So let's go here to your forum. Okay. So this week, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's happening with Christians after the first century. After last week, we talked about early Christians and how they were persecuted and things like that. And this particular question, you're going to go to page 27 to get some information, but you're going to answer this question and say, what is a lapsed Christian? LAPSED. And what happened to these individuals? What is a lapsed Christian? You can go to page 27 in your book, and you're going to talk about them and what happened to them. Won't give it away, but it's really interesting in what happens to Christians over the years as Christianity was just getting started. All right, so that's your week 3 forum. And I have to say, let me just stop and say your week 2 forums for those people who are watching as well. I really enjoyed reading them, and you did a really good job. So kudos to you on that. Let's talk about the first Christian history video assignment. All right, so you have a video to watch here, and I really like this young man that does the videos. If you haven't watched it already, let me see if I can click on it real quick. And you're going to watch this video, and he gives a really concise summary to Christian history, and it helps you to understand it better. He can't get into everything, but I really loved this video because it he goes through a lot of things in about 10 minutes or so. But I just implore you to watch that video. You're going to see the link right here. See the link right here. And then once you watch the video later on, you're going to submit 2-page double space. Make sure it's double spaced summary of the video. And then you're going to tell if you found anything interesting. Make sure that you watch your grammar and your spelling when you submit your paper. And you can make sure that you use MLA format for citations. So let me click real quick and hold on, gentlemen. I think something's not right here. So I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just want you to see what it looks like when you get started so you'll know, okay, I'm in the right place. And this gentleman, I forget his name, Alan Parr. His name is Alan Parr. And he gives just an overview, y'all, of church history. And I thought that this was really good because he goes from the year 33 and he brings it up to present time. And of course, he's going like through a cursory glance of it. But for me, as well as for you, I got a lot out of it because many times we get kind of stuck in the reading and all the dates and all the people. And it's like, what? And this really helped me, especially as a professor, kind of bring things all together. So I'm not going to play it right here. It's for you guys. It's about 16, 15 minutes or so. And just stop it, take notes. And sometimes he might talk a little fast, but that's why we have the video. You can go back, and rewind it for yourself. And I hope you enjoy that. Okay. Let me go back to our course home. So for week 3, remember we are in week 3. You have your forum and you have your assignment for the first video assignment, okay? So let me pause real quick before we go to our PowerPoint lesson. Any questions so far? I'm gonna come back to your class. All right.
So, I don't know.
Okay. You just let me know if you get stuck with anything. Okay. We're going to go to our lesson today. Oh. All right. And you let me know if you can see my presentation on the screen.
I see it.
Super. Today we're going to go through chapters 3 and 4. 3 and 4. And if you give me 1 second, let me grab my book. 3 and 4. All right, so today let's kind of hey, let's go back. I actually just want to go back to last week's question. Nero. You remember our discussion on Nero? Who was Nero? Why do you think we pulled him out? Why was he important?
He was an emperor for Rome, I think the fourth one, and his persecution. He was kind of infamous for persecuting humans. I mean Christians.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yes, he was. And in my book here, I wanted to go to a particular page and now I can't find it. But Nero was actually one of the leaders that really got things started on punishing and persecuting Christians. And you'll see over the years that this is not going to be the first time that Christians are persecuted, that they will continue to be persecuted over the years. It does not stop, unfortunately. It doesn't stop. And so we talked about this particular word, martyrs, and you find it. I remember last week we talked about Polycarp, martyrs. You remember what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So martyrs. Go ahead, Carl. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, yeah, they were people who died for their cause.
Exactly. So their cause or their belief, they were like, look, we're gonna die for this because they believed in the faith, the Christian faith, and remember, the Roman government at the time was not really embracing this new thing called Christianity, right? Because it was new. Just think about it. When anything new comes, or a new way of thinking or new way of doing things, right, comes into our lives or into our society, many times we don't really embrace it. And at this time, in the early part of the century, they were like, what is this new movement thing? You guys are crazy. But the martyrs felt really convicted about their faith and they were going to stand up for it. So even though the government wasn't embracing them and their new religion called Christianity, and they were being hurt and even killed for it, martyrs said, we're going to stand up for it no matter what. Now, this other definition I have there in the blue box, heretics. And this is someone who's practicing a religion, but they seem contrary to what everybody else had been taught about the religion. So I want you to remember that word. Excuse me, heretics. I think I may be mispronouncing that word. So if you see something like a heretical teaching, right, that means, excuse me, everybody, that means that maybe there's a particular group over here and they're practicing the religion a different way from what they have been taught. So I want you to remember those two words, martyrs and heretics, because a lot of heretical teaching is going to start coming forth in this early part of, somebody mute your phone, mute your microphone, and a lot of are, call from mute your microphone, and a lot of people at that time were being kind of trying to figure out how they were going to practice the religion. So they might have practiced it a different way. And so they were called heretics. Okay, so let's go down and talk a little bit more about martyrs. And remember last week we talked about Polycarp. And One of them, and remember, Polycarp was a man, but if you look right here on the screen, they weren't always men. Some of them were women. And Perpetua, and I hope I'm saying her name right, Perpetua was a female. She was a woman church leader. Isn't that awesome? And so Perpetua, I'm gonna see if I can pull up this this video a little bit later of Perpetua, and I thought it was really interesting. So not just men who were martyrs, but also women stood up for what they believed in the faith as well. All right, so let's go on. Now we're moving through chapters, if you're with me, chapters 3 and 4. Chapters 3 and 4. And so we're going to talk about Origen. You see his picture up there, Origen. And if you have your book, I'm on page 26. Origen. Excuse me. So Origen, remember now, so we're moving through, if you look in your book real quick, we're in like the years 200. We're moving into like years 200 to the 300s. So this is still very early, right? But check this out. Origen was a Greek father of the church, and he wrote a lot of books. Check this out. It says that he wrote about 800 to 2,000 books. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And when I read that, I'm like, no way. And look at us. We have blogs now. We have social media, and we could write a book and put it on Amazon tomorrow.
Yeah.
Origen wrote a book called Hexapla. Hexapla. And if you're in your book, this is on page 26. And this particular book was like a translation. It says he wrote this commentary called the Hexapla. It was a parallel translation of the Old Testament. And guess what? It was written in 6 languages. So he was pretty educated. Origen, he died after he was persecuted under Decius. And so here we are. Remember that key word we keep talking about is martyrs. And so martyrs are like, look, nope, I'm not going for it, but I'm going to die for the cause. I have a really interesting video about him. We're going to watch this video. I'm going to go forward, and then we're going to come back and watch the video at the end. Okay, so we're going to come back to Origen. All right, everybody. So now we get to have problems in the church. We are, and I say again, right? Because it just always seems, excuse me, I hit a button. Sorry, gentlemen. I hit the wrong button. All right, so it always seems like the church is going through issues. In the early church, as it begins to grow in the 1800s, 1600s, even till now, right? The church is never without problems. And why do you think that?
Oh, I guess like different interpretations,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess different viewpoints about what was supposed to be said by Christ.
Exactly. So the church is an organization, even during the early church, right? It's an organization of people, right? Even though it's a spiritual organization, but it's an organization of people. And people are human, and people had different perspectives and interpretations of how they were supposed to do things. So we still see it today, right? Where people say, no, we should be able to do it like this, and we should be able to do it like that. And somebody else says, nope, and then we're going to go over here and do our own thing. It happens. But let's go to this particular word, apostasy. Apostasy. So now you have in the early church, we're having issues. And do you know some people were like, look, I'm not going to do it anymore. So apostasy was a person who renounces a religious or political belief. So there were some people in the early church, after all of these problems started to arise, guess what? They got turned off and they may have walked away. That's what we mean by apostasy. So they may have renounced the religion and said, you know what, I don't know if this is for me anymore. Cyprian was a leader of the in Rome. Cyprian, Cyprian, and he allowed leniency to those people who had said, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. He allowed some leniency to those, that should be to those who had purchased their way out of persecution. And he also wanted to make sure that this thing is over here. He wanted them to be re-baptized. Let's go back. So now I want you to understand that the early church has a lot of opinions. And so I want you to go back right here to this box over here. Is there something strange that we're reading right here? So the leader Cyprian said, you know what? I'm going to let those people come back who purchased their way out of persecution. What do you think was going on?
I'm thinking that it was they had wanted to, I guess they probably tried purchasing it to let the Roman government leave them alone.
Exactly. So check this out. Do you think everybody had the money to pay their way out of persecution?
No.
No. So unfortunately, what happens in the early church here is that you have, once again, the haves and the have-nots, right? And so somebody has money and they're like, you know what? You're not going to come kill me and hurt my family or whatever. Here, take this money. And it may have stayed some people away from them. But then what about the people who didn't have the money to give to the government? They probably were persecuted. So Cyprian said, hey, these people who did this, it's okay. We're going to be lenient. Let them come on back. And but he wanted them to be re-baptized, to, you know, come back into the faith and be baptized again. And some people had issues with that. All right, so now remember, we're moving into like the mid 200s, and we have person after person who's trying to rule Rome. Valerian, and I put up there, he's a bad guy. So time after time, we're gonna have some really strange and harsh rulers in Rome. So Valerian, he was an emperor from about 253 to 260. And he said, you know, to please these Roman gods, Valerian issued this decree or this law. And he said he was outlawing and he was going to execute Christian clergy people. And he was going to purge Christians from the upper class and the assemblies. He was just trying to get rid of all of them. Now, I want you to see something here in the second point that I have. Who's Valerian worshiping? Look at the second point right here.
Right. Yeah, Roman gods.
Roman gods.
Right.
So here is the problem that we're having in Rome around this time. You have people who are trying to practice this new thing called Christianity. And at the same time in Rome, if you know anything about them, you know, like Roman goddesses and things like that, and gods and goddesses, right. They had their own kind of, how do we call it? They had another type of system also set up in terms of worshiping Roman gods and goddesses. They had an intricate system of this thing. So this Christianity was bothering them because Christianity wasn't bothering with their gods and goddesses. Okay.
Right.
So Valerian was pretty bad, but he had a son named Gallienus. And his son said, you know, Dad, you're not doing right. And I'm going to reverse your policy. And so I know I'm probably mispronouncing his name, Gallienus says, look, we're going to reverse this. and he issues this edict called Edict of Toleration. Look at the word, toleration. And so his son says, look, we're going to restore those bishops that my dad forced out, and we're not going to force Christians to worship the Roman gods. If they don't want to do it, don't force them to do it. Okay. So it's interesting, right? It's almost like we're on a seesaw. It's like, yay. And then you turn the page and it's like, uh-oh, yay, uh-oh. And you have this back and forth with the Christians being accepted and, being accepted and then being persecuted. All right, y'all ready? Here comes the 4th century. Now remember, on the previous slide, the Christians were getting some relief. But here we go again, and if we're going over to the 300s, in 303 and 304, you have this emperor called Diocletian. Diocletian. There's a picture of him. I love Roman pictures. They never seem to give them pupils. But Emperor Diocletian, look, what did he do? Look at that at the first point.
Oh yeah, tear down the church and burn the Bibles and torture the clergy.
Yeah. So he's reversing what happened previously. Remember, if we go back to the Edict of Toleration from Gallienus. He said, no, we're not doing that. And so when he comes into power, the Christians no longer have that freedom that they used to. Their churches are gone, their temples are gone, their Bibles are gone, their pastors, their ministers are gone. This is awful. And persecution continues to the Christian church until about 312. And we even see this persecution moving into North Africa. A lot of the Christians at this time are forced into exile. What's exile mean?
I guess to be removed from the lands.
Right. So they start to hide out. They start to hide out and they go into their own little groups. They're in hiding, basically. They're in hiding. And some had to give up their Bibles, their writings to the government in order to, be safe or to keep their. It's pretty terrible, But I want you to see how this persecution continues. All right, so let's keep going. So that was about the 4th century. All right, here comes Constantine. I told you it's like a seesaw.
Mm-hmm.
We go up, we go down. We go up, we go down. All right, now we're going back up with Constantine. Now he seems to be a little bit more level-headed. Constantinople actually is named after him. And Constantinople is, if you look on your map, this is modern-day Turkey, where Turkey is located. And I've never been to Turkey, but I've heard people say that it is a beautiful place. So Constantine begins to tolerate the church people. He's like, look, okay, let's not kill them and all of these things. But I want you to, I couldn't put it on here, but if you have your book in front of you, I want you to go to page 34. Go to page 34. I'm going to pull up something for you real quick. When you get to page 34, I want you to shout out some of his building projects. What did he do?
Let's see. He built the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem in 325.
In 325, okay. Construction begins on the Church of St. John in Rome. Let me see if I can pull up some of these images real quick. Let me let you see this real quick. Church of the Nativity is founded in Bethlehem. Okay, I'm gonna come right back to you here, and I'm gonna share my screen. it always helps when we figure out where we are, right? So you can see all these maps here. This helps us to understand where we are when we're talking. So let's see if I can open this up here. Let me see if I can use this one. And, oh, okay, the map is gone. Okay, there's the map. Okay, so here's modern day Turkey. Okay, so you see where it's very close to Africa. You see right here, here's Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Iraq, and Iran. Okay, so we've heard of these places, right? On the news, Greece, Italy. So we've heard of these places on the news. Still a lot of conflict goes on over there today. Let's go to the Church of the Nativity. Let's see if we can find that real quick. I just want you to see some of these beautiful pictures